Let me tell you what I believe.
I believe there's a hero in all of us.
There's something inside that they can't get to, that they can't touch.
Luminous beings, though, not this crude matter.
Death is just another path, one that we all must take.
Somewhere out there, you have another father, too, who gave you another name. And he sent you here for a reason, Clark.
You don't owe these people anymore. You've given them everything.
Not everything. Not yet.
What we do in life echoes in eternity.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Directed by God, where we find God and how he appears in film.
Or we don't find him at all. He's just not there.
Sometimes he's not there. Sometimes he's there. This time, I think we're going to have a good discussion.
Good discussion.
Some opinions here.
Yep.
My name is Seth. I'm joined by Reagan Wells.
That's me. Wow, full name.
Yes,
what an honor. Thank you.
People come after you.
Mr. Farmer, thank you.
They're going to find him online, do unspeakable things now.
We're joined
That's
also
fine.
by Nathan
Please.
Stevenson.
Oh, no. I've also been targeted.
Wow.
Who brought us that,
Destroy him.
that lovely intro. Nathan's just got he's just a good performer, good voice.
Thank you.
So I like
If you
him.
need any voiceover work, just contact me.
I like letting him handle
Can you do
the
a
intros.
good Morpheus impression? I feel like you could. A little bit of work.
He needs his sunglasses.
Yes.
You can take the blue pill.
It's pretty good. That's already pretty good.
Good.
Well, you just gave away what we're talking about.
I did it.
Kind of.
You're welcome.
We talked about The Matrix. I think we did pretty well. We're back for more. And rather than dive
I've been
in...
resurrected, actually.
No.
Oh.
You didn't die, actually.
Oh, never mind.
I know someone who did. We might talk about him later.
Oh,
that guy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, rather than diving into the sequels, which we would love to do, those are pretty rich movies, we're going to try to strike while the iron is hot and cover Resurrections, because it's still a pretty new movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people probably still haven't seen it.
Yep.
And it's generating some conversation.
It is.
So I think it'll be cool to jump in that conversation from a Christian perspective.
We can't see it. But we're all trapped inside these strange, repeating loops.
Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious.
But this is the moment for you to show us what is real.
Seems like it didn't make a ton of money.
I'm not sure.
The whole HBO Max thing kind of muddies
Makes
the
it
whole
hard to
box
tell.
office realities at this
Definitely.
point.
Yeah.
Let us explain what this movie is.
Please. I don't even know why I'm here.
Well, it's a fourth Matrix film.
What's the story of this movie? Just so we all know. Remind me.
Neo from the original Matrix trilogy is once again trying to figure out there must be something more to life, because I'm going to a therapist and I have these hallucinations about a life I felt like I lived, but I turned it into a video game. So am I having an identity crisis, and what's going on?
We must point out it is Thomas Anderson.
Thomas Anderson.
No longer Neo.
Yes. He
Thomas
has returned
Anderson.
to being a state of Thomas Anderson.
Right.
And Thomas Anderson has eventually another encounter like the first film, where someone breaks him out of this new Matrix.
Yeah.
And he discovers that him and his love Trinity have been brought back to life. Resurrections, as the title may suggest. And he is now on a rescue mission to get Trinity out of the Matrix as well. And the power of love breaks the bondage of control. The end. Everyone lives happily ever after.
It's one of those movies, kind of like, I don't know, there's so many reboots today. And this was just another one. And leading up to it, I was kind of curious about it, because, I mean, another Matrix movie sounds cool. I think there's more stories to tell in that world, and I'd always kind of dreamed about it growing up. And I heard, one of the Wachowskis is coming back, so okay, great, we got the original creator. I was looking forward to it. And I remember seeing the trailers and just kind of going, this looks so different, but I'm kind of intrigued too. Because this movie has some kind of crazy trailers, and it had the double trailer thing. And then it had that great second trailer, which was, it was like
referencing all
it
the
was
other
like
movies.
the Photoshop trailer.
The Deja Vu trailer is
Yes.
awesome.
The After Effects Photoshop trailer. Where it's cool. It's really neat. Yeah. So I was pretty interested in this movie. How about you guys? I think, Nathan, you said you didn't care.
Yeah. So also, Matrix Resurrections is rated R by the MPAA. If you be sure to use your own discretion as you decide to view the film. But we're gonna give our Christian perspective and personal
There's some messed
perspective
up stuff
on
in
it.
this movie. Yeah.
But my first
awesome
impressions
stuff.
going in, I had seen the original Matrix trilogy. I love the original. I like the others. I just hadn't seen them as much as the original. And when I first heard years ago, IMDb page pops up Matrix 4, no details known.
Yeah.
And
Just that white poster just before on it.
yeah,
right?
this was right when all you knew is that a fourth exists. And I was going, spoiler alert, at the end of the trilogy, like, they're all dead. Like, what is this movie? Why?
What's it going to be?
And I just didn't really... I thought it wouldn't probably be good because I didn't understand why there was a need for another. And normally I'm all for more sequels, but I'm like, this felt bookended. I don't know. And I was doing a media fast when the trailers came out. So I barely saw the advertising. And then when it launched on HBO Max and theaters and stuff, I was busy. And so I really didn't approach it until today.
We
I literally
made
watched
him watch it.
I watched it hours ago to get ready for this. And I think I liked it the most out of all the people here. I had a blast with it.
I think you did. But before we get into our actual impressions of the film, Reagan, what was your lead up to it?
Well, similar to yours, like I said, we had that crazy... They changed the whatisthematrix.com website, right?
Yeah.
It was at that website where you take the red pill, take the blue pill. And it was just so intriguing. The shots look so cool. You see a robot Morpheus.
But the shots look very different, too.
Very different.
From the other films.
And you see they're recreating
yeah.
old shots too. And I go, what is this movie? And I think maybe by that second trailer, I was resolved in my mind that maybe it wouldn't be very good. I don't know what tipped me off. Maybe it was the shooting. Here's what it was. They released a couple clips on Jimmy Fallon.
Oh yeah.
And for some reason, the good, fine, honorable, upstanding, edifying people at Warner Brothers decided to release the scene where Neo's in the bathroom of Morpheus. And it's just this weird conversation about modals. And he's just coming out of a toilet, and you're just like, what? And Keanu Reeves' acting is just weird.
It's comedic.
And so
it's just straight comedic.
I watched that and I went, you know what? This is gonna be something. And you know what? When I saw it, it was something. It was something.
It was certainly something.
I think that scene actually worked pretty well.
But
in context.
One brief expectation, like you were saying, the last movies, I like those last movies a lot. Pretty conclusive ending. I was definitely excited to see how will this story.
Pretty Christian ending.
Exactly. Oh. Explicitly, nakedly Christian.
Nakedly.
Please put on clothes, Jesus, please. But I was excited to see how will this film connect. But then reading press stuff leading up to it, I kind of realized with just Lana being involved, she was talking about maybe her parents had died and she wanted to do a story kind of about her more personal grief and like a love thing. Kind of was expecting, I don't know what to expect. Maybe we'll not connect to the other three films like I would like, but excited to see it. So anyway, that's what I was looking forward to.
I wanted to share one more thing. Nathan, you reminded me when you said, what could this movie be? I mean, all the characters are dead. And that was, I think that's a good observation. And that was what made me interested in another Matrix film was Matrix Revolutions has this interesting ending where there's this real state change in the world and just the imagination of what could happen next. And I remember feeling this. When I saw the trailers and I saw Keanu's back, Carrie-Anne Moss is back, I felt disappointed because I thought, oh, it's going to be less new than I thought it was.
Yeah.
It's going to be... It was harder for me to conceive of why these actors would be back than for me to conceive of a brand new story.
Yeah.
So that was... I don't want to call that a red flag, because that actually didn't...
Certainly not what you were expecting.
Yeah.
Not what I was expecting, not the direction that I thought it would go in. Yeah. Definitely. That was one of my expectations for sure.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, you watched it most recently. What did you think?
Yeah, give us your fresh impressions.
Fresh impressions.
So I literally saw it just a few hours ago, and it's hard for me to make an objective take on it, but just from like a personal experiential take, it was so unexpected and weird and cool, and I just was kind of blown away by it in the way that I just, even having seen the trailers before I went in, I just felt myself still being surprised by things and surprised by the fact that instead of this kind of cold philosophical film, I was getting this Interstellar-esque, like, love conquers all fairy tale.
Yeah.
And that was so cool and crazy, and love causes explosions, and I loved it.
Explosions of light.
It just had a special something that I was like, wow, that was something, and I enjoyed it. It was a ride.
What'd you think about all the meta stuff in the first act?
Yeah. Really that whole first act is just this giant meta commentary on sequels. And I was laughing through a lot of it. A lot of it reminded me of in Assassin's Creed, the video game franchise, Abstergo is this company that's creating a Matrix-esque simulation for them to go through history. But also Abstergo is this evil corporation. So there was this kind of similar thing of like, here is the evil corporation that's making the Matrix, and Neo is creating this video game franchise that is the movies we know. And it was really, once again, the kind of unexpected aspect. I had no clue Neo was going to be a video game designer going in.
Oh yeah.
Or the blue pills from the therapist. I loved the weird reimaginings of the iconography.
It's cool that you went in so cold, because I was studying the trailers.
We downloaded them and scrubbed them.
We did download them, yeah. But I feel like I had a pretty good handle on the plot of this movie before it came out. I didn't really need spoilers, but I pieced some things together, like Neo working at a company and stuff. But that's awesome. You went in cold. I love that. It sounded like they made the movie a lot better. But
definitely.
One thing I think that is really cool about this movie, Nathan, kind of what you're saying is, it kind of makes you go, what could another Matrix be? And it kind of course you go, what is another Matrix movie? What's another story to tell in that world? But then the movie kind of says, through the meta stuff, this whole sequel reboot culture is a Matrix that you're trapped in.
Totally.
And the movie is itself trying to break out, is kind of my read on it. But I love all that meta stuff too. That first act I think is pretty strong. The second and third act is where I start to get confused. But I'll share my general impressions, and then we'll go to Reagan, because he is mean.
I'm fine.
We'll have a nice descent into
I'm fine.
into pure hatred.
We're all good here. How are you?
Nathan, I liked a lot of the same things you did. Just the creativity of this movie. I think there's a lot of imagination, a lot of ideas in this movie. There are so many reboots going around. I mean, you're just gonna... I couldn't think of a metaphor. Sorry.
Everywhere you throw a stone, you hit an 80s franchise that's been revived.
Pretty much. Yes, thank you. And I don't think all of them are very good, all these reboots. I think most of them are pretty bad. And hardly any of them are creative, even the ones that are good. This one was creative. It thought outside the box, and we can only speculate as to Lana Wachowski's, intentions and what she was really trying to say, but I think it's a creative movie. It's trying a lot of things, ambitious and strange and imperfect and cool. I like movies like that. And the Wachowskis tend to make movies like that. Big swings that don't quite work but are just so cool, because no one else is making movies like them at all. I really like that about it. Like I said, I think the story gets just confusing and strange in the second and third act, but we can get deeper into that in a second. Overall, mixed feelings for me, but this is one that I think I will want to come back to in 5 years or something and approach it.
Yeah.
Just reassess it.
See, honestly, what else is predicted of the future?
Yeah.
How much prophecies have come true.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. What do you think is going to be one of those?
Well, I don't know yet. I just kind of think the Matrix, the original one, I don't know. I obviously people at that time were going, my cubicle job, hold me back. I don't like all this stuff. But just hacking, computing, digital selves kind of had a real early handle on all that stuff.
That's true.
I wonder what this film has to share. Maybe.
We'll see.
I don't know.
Okay, but what did you think?
I don't know why you think I'm so negative. I'm definitely more mixed, trending negative.
No, you're more negative. Come on.
All right. Well, I
know you are.
I really liked the meta stuff as well.
You told me.
Just the reboot, sequel culture stuff. Honestly, it's kind of come down to is that I think the director had a lot of cool things they wanted to do. a lot of cool things they wanted to say. My bigger problem is just when I go, this is part of the Matrix. Because there are some pretty core divergences from the story. We'll hit them pretty hard in the spiritual stuff because it's why the original movie is so powerful. Number one, the character named the One is now two. And it's just, what does that mean? I have to deal with that. That's a new, fresh idea. And then two, Smith, who really is kind of one of the many analogs in the original films for sin, he's just back. And I just go, I don't know. So anyway, I loved the new story. I loved the love story. All that was cool. The first half, really strong. But I just kind of walked away confused. I didn't really know what was even happening in the second half. And also was really hurt by that original movie to me. Was really important to me as a filmmaker, just how confident it was from a shooting, editing, choreography direction. This film was just, the fight scenes were not very good. The shooting was not very good.
It's just lazy at a certain point, yeah.
And
there are good sequences, but it's very uneven.
The whole motorcycle chase is
at
really
the end.
cool.
I love it.
Really cool.
Yeah,
but
there is just some straight bad fight sequences in this movie.
Just sad to see the lack of that quality that I've been really excited about. So that was tough from a film perspective. But
in general, I think you could say things that made The Matrix what it was.
Yeah.
And Nathan, I like how you pointed out the cold philosophy is sort of gone.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's still a lot of philosophy in this movie, but it's not. You're right. It's not cold. It's different.
There's almost kind of a humor to it.
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Well, the core ideas of the film have just shifted, and that's the strongest part of the movie to me. Is it's showing us in that first half, but also kind of maybe throughout, what does the Matrix look like today?
Yeah.
And one of the big things, the analyst, Neil Patrick Harris's character, the new architect in a lot of ways, he's saying this new Matrix isn't built on facts, isn't built on truth, isn't built on logic, built on feelings.
Yeah.
And so you're absolutely right. There's these philosophical diatribes. That's just not how even our culture talks anymore. So that was really cool.
I don't think it was how they talked in 1999 either.
Well,
but that's what made The Matrix cool.
Sure. I guess I'm just saying there has been a shift, and the film is representative of the shift. That's really cool.
I think one thing. Sorry to interrupt, Seth. But
it's okay.
the
forgiven.
I think when you were talking about how will this film have commentary for the future, I don't know exactly how much it'll affect the future, but I think it's very, very representative of the present and the past 20 years between Matrix 3 and now.
I would say that, absolutely.
Which is the whole first half of the film, which I'd love to get into.
I love that stuff. That's great.
Shall we make an attempt before moving on to scripture? What do we think the movie's actually saying? This is where I struggle. I'm not sure what this movie's saying, and I see this remake of the first movie. You know, it's like some of the more clever remakes out there, like the Neon Genesis Evangelion rebuilds, where you think it's a remake and it's not, and this one's sort of like you thought it was a sequel, but it's not. It's a remake. It's kind of riding that line. And I don't know what it's saying with that. Because at the end of the movie, the analyst he wants, in the logic of this new story, Neo and Trinity power the new Matrix. Their love is so powerful. It powers the whole Matrix. And he needs them in their
Matrix
pods.
only needs more power because so many minds have been freed since the end of the third film.
Right. And what I don't understand is at the end of this movie, Neo and Trinity decide out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere, in the final scene of the movie, we will stay in the Matrix and remake it. We're the gods of this world. We can remake the whole world. And I thought that word, remake, was interesting. It was very intentional.
Yeah.
But with Neo and Trinity staying in the Matrix, being together, I just wonder, is the film endorsing this ending, or is it some kind of critique on the things you want, the desires you have, even wanting to be with Trinity, your loved one, that can be controlled and that can keep you inside the Matrix? Because at the end of the film, they're in the Matrix. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't understand.
Right now, you're feeling good about what you've done. You should. It was a victory. Bravo. Now what? You've come here to negotiate some kind of deal? You think you hold all the cards because you can do whatever you want in this world. I say, go for it. Remake it. Knock yourselves out. Paint the sky with rainbows. But here's the thing. The sheeple aren't going anywhere. They like my world. They don't want this sentimentality. They don't want freedom or empowerment. They want to be controlled. They crave the comfort of certainty. And that means you two, back in your pods, unconscious and alone, just like them.
We're not here to negotiate anything.
We were on our way to remake your world.
Change a few things.
Kind of like the paint the sky with rainbows idea.
Just remind people what a free mind can do.
I forgot. It's easy to forget.
He makes it easy.
That he does.
Something you should think about.
Before we got started, we decided to stop by to say thank you. You gave us something we never thought we could have.
And what is that?
Another chance.
The film is meta enough to where I go, what is the ending of this movie saying? It's like the movie's straight and then it's cynical at the same time. It just makes that's why it makes it hard to read. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's two films in one. That's the blue pill, red pill.
It's like, are you the blue pill person that reads it with the happy ending, or are you the red pill person that reads it the cynical ending?
Right. It's interesting. Like I said, I think we got to return to this movie in 5 years or something.
See what it's doing.
Yes. Interesting movie, very creative. So Nathan, what do you think the movie is actually saying?
So I think there's kind of two core messages. The first act, I think, is, like we're talking about, very keyed in on sequel culture, reboot culture. People want bigger and better. They want to retread the same ideas. You have the corporate CEO that's like, people liked, keyword, freshness and originality, according to the focus group test. So you have, this kind of commentary on film culture and modern iPhone culture in the first half. And then the second half transitions into this really kind of fairy tale-esque, knight saves the girl he loves, and by the power of love, the Matrix just kind of breaks and fireworks shoot from their hands. And it's I think that kind of a love conquers all message is the second half.
Yeah, I can see that.
Which is certainly an element of the first film. I mean, look, Trinity kisses Neo, comes back to life. But
the movie's definitely saying something about how powerful their love is.
But this time, it's not. In the first film, Neo needs Trinity's love. There's some element going on there where that brings him to life, makes him realize he's the one. There's something going on there. But he's still the one. Where now, together, they're the one. Their love is the one. There's something about that unit together that is the source of the power. So that's definitely a much more explicit way of rendering the message of love conquers all than the first film. Absolutely. Yeah.
I agree with the love conquers all thing. Again, I'm just not sure it's straight or if it's cynical. What do you think, Reagan? What's the message?
I don't really know. I think you guys have done a nice job for it. The plot is just not super clear. There's a few other loose ends though that are kind of weird because again, the analyst's main take is,
my predecessor loved precision. His matrix was all fussy facts and equations. He hated the human mind. So he never bothered to realize that you don't give a shit about facts. It's all about fiction. The only world that matters is the one in here. And you people believe the craziest shit. Why? What validates and makes your fictions real? Feelings.
But then Morpheus talks about later when Neo is interacting with, I have all these memories of my life there, but there are these video games, and Morpheus says something along the lines of, sorry, this is Neo Morpheus, the program Morpheus, the modal, very confusing. He basically says, is reality made fiction any less true? And so there's something there about truth, feelings, logic. I just don't know what I just don't know what it's saying. So there's exploration of all that. Don't have a clear statement of what it actually is saying though.
The quote from modal Morpheus is reality based in memory nothing more than fiction? Okay. So if it's memory, if it's the past and not living in the present, is that even who you are anymore? Is that even reality anymore? I guess.
Reality based in memory, nothing more than fiction.
Yeah, is it nothing more than fiction if it's all based in memory? So is the original Matrix films living inside of them? I have no clue. It's an interesting statement.
All reality is based in memory. Your whole identity is based in memory.
Right, except for the present that you're tangibly living. Is that reality? But there's a spirituality that's higher. It's a whole big question.
And the present doesn't even make sense without comparison to the past. Like you sitting there doesn't even make sense to me unless I know that you sat there. Yeah. I saw you sitting down.
It's a very good Matrix quote, though, because we're arguing about the philosophy of it. So it feels like it should be there.
Oh, definitely.
It's just messy in a way where I walk away from the other films.
What does that mean?
Knowing what they're saying. This
Yes.
one.
The first film, hard, as we discussed, clearly an endorsement of the truth will set you free. Story all about that. But I think we can all agree that the movie, at the very least, is saying, hey, the Matrix can change, and the thing that enslaves you, that can change and mold with the times, and can mold around your very desires, actually.
Yep.
Totally.
Yep.
That's cool.
That's great.
There's another awesome quote that's on the bathroom wall that I don't know quite what to do with, but might speak to that. It is so much simpler to bury reality than it is to dispose of dreams.
Right.
Which speaks to the dream thing as well. It's too early for me to know. I watched it today, don't know what that means, but there's a lot of strong, interesting philosophical statements like that.
Well, I think we have to spend some time talking about what is the new Matrix.
One pill makes you larger, and one pill makes you small.
Well, there's many. I mean, you'll probably have a few more things, Nathan, but I was just drawn the most by, the old Matrix. Gone are the cubicles, the men in suits, the glasses, but now everybody's hipsters. Everybody's drinking coffees. Everybody's got nice haircuts. People are talking like, dude, it's just
shook.
I mean, there's a character named Jude who's basically the machine's handler for Neo, and he's always, I don't know, he's just always trying to handle him, and he's dressed like a nice hipster, and he's always talking about how much he loves the original and how much I was raised by the machines. And so this kind of geek nerd culture that we all are so obsessed with now is pretty heavily commented on. People obsessed with this original thing. And then, I gotta be honest, there's this whole strand of...
And he's the villain.
He's the villain.
Nathan, did you think he is the analyst?
Oh,
I never
thought of that.
The movie says that he's a handler of the analyst, but when the analyst reveals his true personality, it's like Jude.
He sounds a lot more like Jude. Fast talking, smarmy.
And he's with all the agents at that one in the elevator when he calls him. Interesting.
This immature, geeky guy.
Yeah. I gotta be honest, though, the part that speaks to me most, I love, honestly, iPhones, all that kind of culture stuff is really resonates well, but look, Neo's controlled by going to therapy, and the analyst is using all these words that in our current conventions would be words of healing, words of understanding, trauma, triggering, healing, problematic. All these words that should be a way two people can understand each other are in fact creating a false matrix within Thomas Anderson, within Neo. It's keeping him trapped. So therapy, the space of supposed freedom and security, is just shown to be another form of control.
There's that ridiculous line where, Neo's telling the analyst about him visiting with his boss.
Yeah.
Thomas, you were a suicide survivor, gifted with a powerful imagination. Those facts have combined to create dangerous fictions in your life. Yesterday, you walked into a meeting with your business partner and he ambushed you, demanding you make a game you said you would never make. This attack effectively took away your voice. His violence triggered you, and your mind fought back. You did to him what he was doing to you. We've talked about the value of adaptive anger in healing trauma. Far from suggesting a repeat of your initial breakdown, I believe this episode demonstrates healthy self-protection.
And the analyst says, he attacked you. And of course, it's played as a joke, because you go, that's not what I saw. I saw them sitting down.
Neil Patrick Harris is so funny in that role, because there's that moment, it's like, it was basically the equivalent of, like, he microaggressed you. You devising this crazy thing in your head, that's actually your body doing healthy self-defense mechanisms.
Right. Yeah. Right. And how many times have we heard language like that today? It was awesome to see a filmmaker pick up on that and say, this is the new Matrix.
The therapist is just tying him in knots. And so I don't really know, because, look, the filmmaker's personal journey is very complex. We should probably mention that at some point.
We'll mention that in the Not Bible section.
We need to. However, I just kind of went, I'm surprised that this filmmaker would be commenting on this stuff. And so, anyway, I'm not trying to say that all therapy is evil.
Definitely not.
All mental illnesses are fake and ways of controlling, but
the film itself is critiquing.
There is definitely something going on there, and I don't know what it means.
Because counseling is a wonderful thing that can really help people heal and be super important for some people. But if you have a counselor who has nefarious means or has a completely different worldview, it is an intimate space where you could be told things that aren't true. So it's like, here's this good thing that's being perverted, like all these things in the film.
It's tough. I mean,
taking all the blue pills with the pill iconography of the Matrix, that was such a cool moment.
Yeah. I think what you said is right. You know, I haven't had many experiences with therapy myself. I have a lot of friends who've been helped by it. I am by no means trying to create this diagnostic tool for saying something's wrong, but you know, the first film to me, you know, it's saying that, you know, going to your boss every day, going to church, paying your taxes, you know. I'm not saying those things are bad, but it's a way of control. It's a way of preventing you from seeing things that are real.
The film's critiquing it. Coffee shop, therapy, hipsters at work, video games.
And it all is part of the same mold there. And unlike, you know, kind of unlike the first film, there's a lot more jokes with this stuff too. Because you know, you get the one really straight boss. You either be at your desk on time, or you choose to find yourself another job. You know, that's not really a joke, but in this version, it's kind of joking with you. He's on the toilet. He's in the coffee shops. You know, there's the hipsters. Neil Patrick Harris is just funny, and so I go,
the rubber duck on his head.
The critique this time is a bit more pointed, and so like you're saying, I'm not saying you're wrong that therapy isn't helpful. I'm just saying the film itself is not trying to say that there's a good therapy and bad therapy. So I don't know.
It's just making fun of one
the false Matrix. To me, is honestly the most coherent and most helpful thing the film offers.
You know what? Maybe I can sum it up this way. The first film is all about the lies the world tells you. This one is the lies you tell yourself. Because Neo Thomas Anderson is choosing, at some level, he's choosing to go to therapy.
Yeah. And the great visual of every day you're taking a blue pill. Yeah. It's not just a one-time thing you do and it's gone. Every day you're taking the pill.
The lies you tell yourself. Mm-hmm. That's cool. Nathan, can I throw you one more curveball?
Yeah, sure.
What do you make... This is something you only get on a rewatch. So, what do you make of the fact that Jude is the one who introduces Thomas Anderson and Tiffany, who is the analyst?
Weird.
Yes, chew on that
Very
for
weird.
A few weeks, like I did.
Well, there's a pretty straight film reading of it. Is that
he wants them together?
Exactly. The analyst has
it
devised
creates more power.
You need to be close, but not. You can't be together. Your true love can't be unlocked. But you have to be near each other. There's have to be like a tension or something happening between.
Like
them.
I need to get you to flirt and then show that she has a husband and kids, and then pull you away.
Yeah, right. The tension.
Because I think to the analyst, what's powering is it's the feeling. It's not the actual substantiation of the love.
Yeah,
it's the tension,
just
the longing,
the desire
for a better life. That alone is creating energy somehow. I don't understand it.
I see that.
The pointed, you're talking about the critique being more pointed. It is so meta and so pointed that it directs the gun right at its own studio.
Things have changed. The market's tough. I'm sure you can understand why our beloved parent company, Warner Brothers, has decided to make a sequel to the trilogy.
What?
They informed me they're going to do it with or without us.
I thought they couldn't do that.
Oh, they can. And they made it clear they'll kill our contract if we don't cooperate.
Insane.
It's weird.
That part's crazy too because there's been so many in my own life with corporate bosses where they'll kind of sell you some bad news like that, and then he kind of goes, "Me personally, I'm kind of excited." Like it's just he's like, "I get you hate it. Yeah, we can't make a choice, but you know, me personally, I love it.
It'll be fun."
Yeah, there's something really that to me is just the realest part of the movie. I'm sure Lana has just heard this kind of crap over and over and over and over again. I want to know why she felt the need to even come back. I know we've heard part of that in interviews, but anyway, what happened in the behind the scenes of this movie? What actually convinced her to come back?
You could read the Warner Brothers scene as Lana just saying, "Yeah, this is what happened.
We'll make one with or without you."
And it's a weird sort of pitch of the movie too, of like, hey, I was forced to make this, but it's same stories, different names and faces, but we're going all back to where it started. It'll be fun.
Yeah, so is the movie intentionally bad? That's I don't know. I don't know what this movie is. It's crazy.
It's wild.
But it's I will love revisiting it at some point in the future.
And the not to just go on and on with the quotes, but the meta stuff when they're developing the fourth Matrix, they actually have board meetings where they're like,
that's some of the best
the
stuff.
original Matrix, it's just like people want action, they want big. It's like, no, people like the Matrix because the philosophies. Oh, mind porn, philosophy. People love fancy, big sounding words. That's great.
Right.
And it's just all a marketing
That's so
commercialization of it.
Everything they're saying is, I mean, it's not that it's untrue. The Matrix has great action. It's philosophical. It's interesting. But none of them are right either. None of them understand the true bread of the Matrix. They've simply described the loaf of bread that is the Matrix. They don't know what it means to eat it. And they go, I like this.
It's just a new way the truth is being weaponized.
Yeah.
You can describe a thing, you can have the right opinions about it, but the enemy will still use that stuff.
My favorite part of that section is the word obviously, because we're talking about like this is what's truly the meat of the Matrix, and we feel like we have that nailed. But in the movie, they're going, obviously the movie's about crypto-fascism.
Yeah, that part's
obviously
great.
the Matrix
Yeah.
is about
Yeah.
capitalistic exploitation or trans politics.
yeah,
and they all think they've got the real reading of the
Right.
Matrix.
It's awesome. I mean, that part, I watched that and I think Lana Wachowski is just a brilliant filmmaker, just critiquing the whole world order.
And you'll notice that no one in that little montage of liberal silliness says, "That was Jesus Christ." So he was comfortably not mocked.
We are probably in the smaller minority on that one.
Well, it's pretty obvious.
But let's wrap up the message section.
Yeah.
We each enjoyed the film to different degrees, but I think we all agree, even the message isn't as clear as it could have been. The movie's trying to say something about the Matrix has been updated. There's a new world order. It's time to critique something else.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Our modern culture has different vices, different addictions. Our relationship with the digital world is different.
It's a postmodern Matrix. It's a post-truth society.
It's an iPhone post-truth Matrix.
Yep.
Well said. All right, let's move on to Bible. Let's move on to Bible.
Welcome to the Bible section.
All right. Welcome to the Bible section of the podcast.
Yes, finally.
Thank you for being here. I would like to start with good old Genesis. This movie has some great and explicit allusions to Genesis, particularly in the scene with Niobe. Go to the real world, we meet with Niobe, and as a Matrix fan, nothing makes sense. It's just the plot threads are just... It's all like smoke and mirrors. But again, I go, anyway, that's a different conversation. But anyway, Niobe starts talking about fruit, and she starts talking about the garden. And that's very curious. And then Neo goes into the garden and takes of the fruit, and he eats the fruit, and he eats a strawberry, a thing that should not exist in the so-called real world. What is going on here? First of all, do we agree this is some pretty explicit Genesis stuff?
It definitely seems like an illusion.
Yeah. Why?
No clue.
I have an idea.
I was trying to think of what are Niobe's faults in the film, and what is the false thing that she's holding on to as she's offering him this fruit. And I think the best I came up with is just kind of her complacency. She's lost belief and faith and claims she never really had it to begin with.
Which contradicts the original
films.
films. Yes.
Yeah, I would say security, safety, comfort in this new world, like you were saying.
Yeah,
and of course the robots are helping them too, so there's definitely some sort of...
She foresees a new future with the freed robots.
Yeah.
You know,
in IO.
In
which
IO.
is input-output reference.
Yes, probably. Yeah, she foresees a new world, and there's just something about that where I think the movie's... It's dealing with temptation a lot. Neo's got this coffee addiction, and... The whole thing is it's just kind of critiquing, are the things you want the things you need? Niobe's over here saying, we can build a whole new world. And Neo eating the fruit, I mean, it plays out like an Oracle scene, because in the other films, Neo goes to see old black lady, sit down, here, eat this. And then, I mean, that's an Oracle scene. And that's how Niobe is played. She even kind of looks like the Oracle a little bit. She's an old black lady. But her friend Freya looks more like the Oracle, dressed in green. And the strawberry's red, like the red pill and the red candy that she gives him in Reloaded. I just wonder, is this another form of... Is this another Matrix for Neo to navigate through? Her tempting him with, come to this world. And it's... What do you think?
And she tells him to abandon Trinity for it as well.
Yeah, that's
this
right.
world is more important than finding Trinity.
Right.
I don't know about that, because Neo's presence coming back, I mean, he's not even being offered a choice. They lock him up as soon as he gets there. His presence, the presence of his truth, his being the one, it's a very threat to everything she has to offer. So I don't know. It's interesting. I don't really know what she's actually offering him to do there, though, other than just showing, look at what you are a threat to all of this. You're too dangerous to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what did the strawberry do?
Tasted good.
It just tasted good.
Now later, the strawberry will be critiqued directly. Literally, what's her face? Bugs, I think we'll say. You've been more interested in growing fruit than freeing minds for a long time now. So the fruit is not this enlightenment thing. It's this image of complacency, stagnation.
She's no longer interested in freeing people from the Matrix.
Well, the fruit in Genesis is not.
Definitely not about freedom either.
Yeah.
So, interesting.
The movie's saying something.
Absolutely, there's an illusion there, 100%.
To me, I try to interface that with the broader things the film is saying about, hey, we built a whole system of control on the things you want. That sounds like the fruit. You ate this thing and you fell into sin. You're a slave. Whoops.
Totally.
That's what I see happening there.
And she even says that Zion was the one that missed it, that they were a matrix of their own. She says explicitly.
Yes. Again, I think a close textual reading of these scenes, along with close textual readings of Matrix Reload and Revolutions, reveals a lot of problems. However, I found that a very interesting statement, and I liked it.
Yeah.
I think as an idea, it's a wonderful idea, and it brings up the idea of, hey, matrices or matrices don't even have to be about a computer. It can be about a paradigm, a state of mind, and the way you see the world. That's great. I love that. Yeah. I just don't know if she actually described the Zion that I saw in those movies.
Right.
Because the guy who believed that stuff, Commander Locke, he was wrong.
Yeah.
And Morpheus, the faithful one, was right. So any other thoughts on Genesis, the fruit, sin, the fall, the death? Oh, yeah. Niobe says,
I hope you'll forgive an old woman for asking you to go with Shepard here, so we have better understanding of what's going on.
You're going to imprison me after I just got free.
I know it doesn't seem fair, but neither does growing old. But you don't hear me complaining.
So just, the fruit, dying, death, sin, all that stuff. I see the film playing in that sandbox, just not totally clear on what it's doing, but I'm trying to connect it to the rest of the movie.
Cool.
I think connected to the idea of the Garden of Eden is that sin entering the world, which we talked about in our last episode. And I think that this movie, especially since it has the message that you said earlier of the Matrix is your desires, that connects to sin of like the desires of the flesh, the things that you want that aren't godly or holy, that keep you enslaved. I think that's a big part of the movie that I have a couple scriptures for, especially because since emotion is what keeps people in the new Matrix, they make feelings-based, impulse-based decisions, and that's encouraged. And that's where a lot of sin comes from, is saying, lust, this is what I feel, so it must be right. This is what I desire, so it must be what's best for me, what's true. Whether that's, we can talk about social media, fake news, fake facts of just like, people don't care about facts. They want to be validated for what they already believe and feel is right.
And how crazy is it that when Jesus speaks to his largest crowd, he addresses the feelings? That's the root of sin, not the actual actions themselves.
Yeah, because not all feelings are inherently evil, but often feelings can lead us to make decisions that are. There's so many verses, you have Romans 8:5 of, for those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit set their minds on the things of the Spirit. And
this film, just to tack on to that, I love that. That's a great verse. Is the things of the flesh includes a lot of things that I respect a lot. Like, for instance, Trinity is controlled by being a mother. They gave her kids. Part of what lulls her into submission every day is because she's got kids to take care of. She's busy. She's running around. She's taking care of her kids. And there's even a weird line where she says, and you have a better handle on this line, I think it was, but like, I didn't know if I actually wanted kids or if I was programmed to want kids by society or something like that.
Yeah, she says, looking back, I'm not sure I wanted them. Did I want them, or was that just the way I was programmed?
Yeah. But anyway, the analyst, one was big ways of controlling Trinity. And her Tiffany persona is she's got kids.
Her family. Her whole family.
Her
Which is so evil. Once again, taking this perversion of something so good and giving a fake version of that to suppress them.
Absolutely. But also, we got to keep in mind all those really hard to swallow verses in Matthew and Mark where he says, Father will turn against them, Blessed are you who leaves your family. Lose your family, you'll get 100-fold in the kingdom to come. It's just so anyway. Absolutely, it's being distorted, but also a Christian can very much just as easily be distracted by
your family can be an idol. Basically.
Absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, that's a hard pill to swallow for me.
Another thing I have under the Bible section is Nathan alluded to this earlier, but in this new Matrix, the love of two people is what powers the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool.
Familiar.
It's kind of cool. Now I think it's a little tricky. Where is love simply their desire for each other? Is it a feeling they have? And how does that square with the critique on desires? But regardless, the love of a man and a woman, and that's biblical, man and woman, is the most powerful thing within this new Matrix.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool. It was kind of cool to see a kind of blatant endorsement of the sacredness of man and woman.
Yeah. And beyond that, obviously there's not a clear Christology in this film. But you're talking about two people loving each other, and honestly the totality of their being comes from the two of them and their love. I mean, it's not a great Trinity allegory, but there's something there. Two becoming one.
Definitely.
Now, it's also the not Bible section, but two becoming one. There's something that binds them, and there's two personas that encompass the power of the universe that is the one. Again, not quite perfect, and frankly, I think I have more problems than I like it, but there's something there that makes me think of the Trinity.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
We saw the power of love become an orb of light, like Nathan said. You said explosion, but yeah. It's pretty cool. And I love the scenes of them, that scene of them in the coffee shop, and they're just reaching for each other. That's great. It's a great visual. I really like that.
I think love does have to be kind of a spiritual dimension in this film. One, just because of the spiritual breaking of the false world that it does, but two, just like for a film so interested in critiquing feelings, Trinity and Neo's love is like set apart from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry. I know you got a great verse, but that's a great statement because that's probably one of my biggest unanswered questions from the trilogy is where does the power of the source actually coming from? Because obviously they say it comes from the source, the power of the one comes from the source. But look, in the real world, he's controlling machines. In the real world, he has all these abilities. He sees light. It seems like there's a higher dimension, a spiritual dimension controlling them. And in this film, just like that, you see their hands together. There's light coming out in the real world. I go, there's something higher, a spiritual reality. And I think your hypothesis of the film is saying love is that, definitely. But a spiritual dimension of love is absolutely correct. And
with that, the films and the new Matrix's emphasis on love, it literally powers the whole world. I was just reminded of in John, what is this, 13? When he says, John 13, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another. But there's also in 1 John where he says, John comments there, it's actually an old commandment. It's like the oldest commandment is to love. It's the most foundational thing. It's cool. It is cool to see a movie endorse that.
There's another still interfacing with 1 John I think it's near the end, but the analyst says that the feelings that the Matrix is powered by are twofold. They're desire and fear. Mm-hmm. And there's so many incredible stories about the fact that like love is kind of the antidote, the analog to fear. There's so many verses about overcoming fear. But in 1 John 4:16-19, it kind of talks about the character of what love is. And it says, "And so we know and rely on the love God has for us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God and God in them. This is how love is made complete among us so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment. In this world that we're like Christ, there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love, and we love because he first loved us." So there's this like, what does conquer the fear, the anxiety, the depression, the control of the modern Matrix? It's love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That 1 John language is so cool.
Man. It is.
One that I found, Bible, is it's kind of an oblique reference, but 2 Timothy 3, talking about the last days, the last times. He says, "But understand this, in the last days there will come times of difficulty. For people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, goes on for quite some time.
Mm.
All these things
sounds like the world we live in.
Swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having the appearance of godliness but denying its power. Avoid such people. Then it says, among them are those who will creep into households and capture weak women. Anyway, I don't know what that means. But I there's something there about, it works for the first film as well, but lovers of self, having the appearance of godliness but denying its power. There's just so many things in this film that this should feel real. This feels real. Feels like it's true. Trinity's connection with her family, Neo's love for, he's creating this thing. It all should feel real, but it's not real. Honestly,
hey, if we're running with the interpretation that this new Matrix is built on the things you want, the lies you tell yourself, is the ultimate self-worship, the new Matrix.
Lovers of self.
Which is the definition of sin, pride, self-worship. One other quick thing that I think might add to our 1 is 2 kind of conversation is love is often shown biblically as, even in the Bible, as a metaphor. So in Ephesians 5:31 through 33, for this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife. The two will become one flesh. This is a profound mystery, but I am talking about Christ and the church. Each one of you must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect their husband. So he's talking about this unity of, hey, man and wife, man and woman are going to become this unified spiritual covenant union, but that is reflecting the relationship of God and his church whom he loves, and God so loved the world that he gave his son for that union. So in Resurrections, there's this kind of supernatural spiritual power to the union that Trinity and Neo have. And obviously we believe that our spiritual power comes from Christ, not just fairy tale kind of love. However, the fairy tale kind of love can be this awesome representation and metaphor of a godly love, because real love is always going to reflect and come from God. And literally, biblically, this amazing spiritual union of a man and a woman is actually representative of the love that God has for the church.
Yeah.
So there's this kind of parallel of love is a metaphor for God's love and power in the Bible already. So to see it as a spiritual dimension here
definitely
kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I see that for sure. I just have a few more before not Bible. There is, similar to the first movie, we've got perhaps an explicit Bible verse on the ship.
Gosh, such a weird one.
Yeah. But in the first movie, on the Nebuchadnezzar's plaque, it says Mark 3:11, I think.
MK 3:11.
MK 3:11. Mark 3 number 11. I think that's it.
Mortal Kombat.
Sure. Mortal Kombat 3. This one would be MK 3 number 19. And that verse is, if we're meant to take it to refer to a Bible verse, that verse is, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him.
And that's on the hero's ship.
The hero's ship, yes.
What the heck?
The hero named Bugs, the hero character named Bugs.
Who says, what's up, Doc?
Who says, what's up, Doc? And also Tech that listens. Also blue hair.
And the blue pill.
Blue analyst glasses.
Yep.
I'm telling you, dude, Neo was in the Matrix. He didn't get out. He didn't get out, sorry.
Here's another verse. This is, again, an oblique reference because this film's very evil. Just kidding.
Evil?
There's a great, interesting verse.
Evil! I'm sorry.
Colossians 2. This is talking about a different principle. I think it relates here. Colossians 2:20. If with Christ you died to the elemental spirits of this world, why, as if you were still alive in the world, do you submit to regulations? Do not handle, do not taste, do not touch, referring to things that all perish, according to human precepts and teachings. And I just go, we have to interface with the fact that, look, there's a character in this film who knows the truth, who he was set free, and now he's back in. And apparently, everybody's had the offer to come out of the Matrix, but they're still choosing to stay in it. So there's something about that verse, again, it's talking about asceticism there, but look, why if you had access to the truth, if you know the truth of this world, are you still submitting to the regulations of the falseness of this world? Why are you still being drawn into the deception of this world? So that's an interesting verse that kind of talks about the weird nature of this movie with the Matrix just being back, I think, which is interesting.
And it was 60 years this time.
60
Neo
years,
says
man.
at some point, I think I gave up searching for something real.
Cool.
Sad.
Yep.
Big sad.
Any other Bible?
So I have a...
Not the Bible?
So earlier on, the modal Morpheus has this really cool line where he's talking about how he kind of awoke, and he's like, no one was ever in the key shop, so I looked. And then the more he looked, the more he found. And, you have Bugs talking about, like, I looked at him and something unlocked in my mind. So you have this aspect of, it says in Matthew 7:7-8, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be opened. For everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds, the one who knocks the door will be opened.
Literally a door of light.
And then you have Morpheus, like, he's like, no one else was looking for the answer. I looked in the room with the keys to unlock the answer, and I found it.
I found some answers.
Keys.
And that was really cool.
I am Morpheus.
And in
it's
that
kind
same
of the
conversation,
whole Matrix 1 condensed down into a scene.
It's crazy. It's so weird.
And in that same scene, he has this aspect of purpose as well. He said, for the first time, I felt real purpose. I knew what I was and what I have to do. And that was such a cool spiritual thing for me of just like, if God designed us, then he knows the purpose for our lives. And you're never going to truly be fulfilled till you like find that. And for him to be like, I finally knew why I was born. I know why I'm here. Reminds me of verses like Jeremiah 1:5 of like, the Lord will fulfill his purpose for me. His love endures forever. Do not forsake the work of your hands. Or like in Romans 12:2, it says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. So you can test and discern what the will of God is, which is perfect. So like, what is the will of God for me? What am I supposed to be doing? What's my purpose? And he finds it, and that's awesome.
Is that
it's one sentence, but it's...
Are we supposed to read that straight? Because this dude's not Morpheus. That's weird for me, because that whole scene is, he takes the red pill and he goes, truth. And he eats it, and then we never return to that idea. Why did you say truth? What do you... Oh.
He also doesn't offer both pills. He just offers one. There's a huge thing that I didn't have time to bring up earlier about choice is a huge thing in all these movies. But in this movie, there's a constant reference to, is it binary? Is there a choice at all?
Yeah.
And it reminds me of video games. The swarm attack at the end is very video gamey. And in Mass Effect and in video games, there's typically like blue choice, red choice, binary, hurt person, save person. And here you have this kind of questioning of, do I have a choice at all? Is choice an illusion?
Wow. I can't believe you're the one bringing this up instead of the 15-point Calvinist over here. This comes up all the time in the sequels of The Matrix, but yeah, the simple binary choice of be free or stay in the Matrix is just, was there even a choice at all? How can Neo ever not take the red pill? How can Morpheus ever not?
And Bugs says it. Bugs is like, I'm going to give you the choice, but like, you know the answer.
You know the answer already.
Like, this is an inevitable thing.
It's so weird because the film is strange because it always has to present the pills as a way of simplifying people's internal subconscious reality. But with Trinity, they don't even do that. So it's weird because the first half of the movie, they're using the pills. But at the end of Trinity, it's about, hey, just come and love me. You love me. There's no red or blue.
It's like, do you choose me or not? And like, you don't need the pill. If she chooses, she chooses. Take her out or
It's
not.
got something more to say about free will and choice. It's cool. I don't know.
It is cool.
It's almost like humans can't even understand our world without choices. Anyway, if you don't have a red pill or a blue pill, you just can't function. You can't even move forward in life. You can't even understand what's happening.
I like the statement that even though it's not Morpheus, it's a fake Morpheus, which concerns me because that kind of makes me go, so you can give someone else's purpose to another guy?
Right.
That's weird. But the idea that he was designed to do something and there was really no other choice for him to make, that's kind of cool.
Yep.
I like that. There's some 35-point Calvinism in there.
35. Oh, way more points.
It's gone up. The Matrix Resurrections alone added more points.
Oh my goodness.
You got to cover blue pill, red pill. You got to cover Matrix 4.
Oh my gosh.
The video game has it's all in
infallible positions of the Catholic Church.
It's all in there now.
My last biblical thing is that true names are big in this series. Thomas Anderson versus Neo, all that, and it still is really satisfying to see that moment where Trinity's about to walk away, and then. I don't exactly like the way she, uses some foul language and then attacks her former family. Didn't love that moment, but just...
They weren't real.
Well...
That's true.
Well, let's add some details to that interaction because her husband in the film is the director of the John Wick films.
Really?
Yeah. His name's
Which is crazy because it's just kind of, come with me, we'll make more reboots, more sequels. What does that mean?
I don't know.
And he calls her Tiffany.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't go over that.
But anyway,
My dead name.
I love that moment where she's like, I am Trinity. I remember who I am. And that kind of awakening reminds me of Isaiah 43 with the whole the Lord says, he who created you, O Jacob, who formed you, I've redeemed you, I've summoned you by name that you're mine.
Wow.
There's this kind of true name being called out.
Well, that's
really how she awakened.
I was there when you died. I said to myself, here is the anomaly of anomalies. What an extraordinary opportunity. First, I had to convince the suits to let me rebuild the two of you. Resurrecting you both was crazy expensive. Like renovating a house. Took twice as long, cost twice as much. I thought you'd be happy to be alive again. So wrong. Did you know hope and despair are nearly identical in code?
We've come to the not Bible section. Welcome.
Finally.
Glad you're here. This is where the movie...
Sit down, folks. There's a lot.
This one movie was wrong. Let's. It said things that the Bible doesn't say. So the film's... The biggest one to me is, it's in the title, Matrix Resurrections. Obvious biblical allusion. Obvious Jesus allusion. Neo's back to life. Trinity's back to life. Okay, great. But the film's concept of resurrection... It's just... It doesn't seem to have anything to do with the biblical concept of resurrection to me. Seems like a pretty shallow use of that word, which is, I mean, I guess understandable. On one hand, it's kind of understandable. It's a movie. You wrote a movie. It's okay. You didn't try to. It's not the Bible. It's all good. But in a series, in a film that's playing with biblical allusions elsewhere and it's doing a good job, and in a series where, you know, resurrection used to carry something closer to a biblical idea, I was disappointed by that. But whether or not I was disappointed, do you guys agree that the film just doesn't really pursue or try to portray the biblical New Testament meaning of resurrection?
No meaningful commentary on resurrection in general. In fact, it's shown to be kind of an evil and painful process. I mean, resurrection is an evil thing in this film, and that's that's a tough pill to swallow. And like you said, there's no glorified body; they're just back in their physical forms. They're trapped again in this world. It's kind of hard to see, honestly. That's what he said.
It's almost like. So Matrix, the franchise, is resurrecting. The Matrix as a tech construct is resurrecting.
Yeah.
And Neo and Trinity are resurrected. But like you're saying, it's almost like they brutally destroyed their bodies to bring them back for a sequel.
Which makes me go, if the film is a cynical critique by a frustrated creator of, I didn't want to make this, but I had to come back, so I'm going to make the best of it.
Have fun with it.
I think that's very interesting.
It's so disappointing too, because the visual element that you really liked in the trailers was you got the green code coming down, but then the yellow
gold
code
coming up.
Resurrection's coming back. It's this beautiful thing, but Neo's older. He's just tired. He's just not a good fighter, and he's screaming. I just don't even know I'm going on. I thought I brought peace. It didn't matter. Okay, I go on Trinity.
It's not a Messiah resurrection. It's a very physical
resurrection. And honestly, it seemed like what he did as a Messiah didn't even work.
They promised peace and they gave us purge.
No, there was peace. You made it possible, and it changed everything.
Doesn't feel like it changed anything. The Matrix is the same or worse. And I'm back where I started. It feels like everything I did, everything we did, like none of it mattered.
Sorry, I just kind of dovetailed to a new topic there.
No,
that's very connected.
There's a question of it in the film because he literally says, like, people are questioning, like, did what happened matter? Did peace happen? He's like, if there was a purge, it failed. And
what's the line you love?
They promised peace and gave us purge. Oh my gosh, there's this huge part where just pretty early in the film, when Neo gets back to the real world, they just jettison the Oracle. They say, "Yep, she was purged." The Oracle, the spiritual foundation of the original film,
the mother of the Matrix.
She was purged. She was deleted. They promised us peace and they gave us purge, but there was peace for a time. And it's just, you go. I watched the end of the third film, and now I'm going to review and spiritual stuff. End of the third film, I go, there's a sunset. What's going to happen? This new peace. Machines and humans interacting. And I get part of that in IO, but...
You certainly get...
It's just...
You get version.
I'm bogged down in... There's a civil war over batteries. And also, now the humans are hiding again. There's a war still going on. And I just go, oh... The Messiah didn't even accomplish anything. It's almost like their conception of the Messiah in the original films is such a worldly thing. Because in a worldly thing...
It just bought some time.
A temporary change of power.
The Jewish Messiah, it's like, are they really thinking that once the Jews overthrow the Romans, they're going to have peace on earth forever? I don't think so. It's, when Jesus came, he came to bring a whole new state of being down. He didn't come to kill some robots.
It's tough because the film talks about a state change. Humans and machines can coexist now. and Neo made that possible. The film
But then there's bad machines as well still.
The film says that Neo made that possible. That's cool. But still having the war, still having the Matrix, even when Neo says, I feel like I didn't change anything. I mean, I hear what he's saying. I get it. Again, the movie's just so strange, and it's presenting that the world has changed, but then it's also saying, yeah, Neo, you didn't do as much as we thought you did. It's hard. Again, it's just hard to read, but either way, it is not the
Christian message. And
the usage of the cross imagery in Revolutions. Neo dies, takes on all the sins of the Matrix, sin. He literally lets Smith, I almost call him Sin, whatever.
Same thing.
He lets Smith just inject him, and he willingly does it, and he frees everyone, humans and machines. It's epic.
But Smith is back.
Well,
he's alive.
yeah, right. But what I'm trying to say is, Christians look at Jesus' death on the cross and the resurrection and say, that was an accomplishment. The world was completely changed forever. There's no going back. It was good for 60 years. No, it's a different conception.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that just hurts to hear.
Yes.
To me, Smith being back, that was pretty egregious. It was completely unnecessary too. He's not even the antagonist of the film. Look, that whole character represents sin. I guess you could have some sort of really kind of tightrope Christian reading where you go, well, even though Christ took on sin and died the world, we as believers still struggle with sin, so Smith has to be around. But it's almost like the filmmakers are saying, if there's a Messiah, the negative is also resurrected. The sin is resurrected. And I just go, why is Smith here? The good and evil element of the last film is undone with Smith being back. It
makes me think more about reincarnation.
Yeah,
they're both back to
a new form. Yeah,
new faces.
Bodies.
Yeah,
there's that interesting line where he's like,
I've been thinking about us, Tom. About binaries that form the nature of things. Ones and zeros. Light and dark. Choice in its absence. Anderson and Smith.
Good and bad, and light and dark. Anderson and Smith.
Yeah.
Like,
and of course,
these forces
of course,
of
there
nature.
He's still using Anderson. And it's like, no, it's Neo and Smith.
I love how he calls him Tom instead of Mr. Anderson.
That's pretty funny.
As this new him.
He's good.
It's
I like
so
it.
funny.
I like the new Smith. He's funny. He's cool.
Now I gotta quibble with. Again, there's some Trinitarian element, and there's really some cool love stuff with Trinity and Neo. But look, there is one Christ. There is one Messiah. There's none of this nonsense where he needs someone else, or there's actually two people are him. Because honestly, I read even the Ephesians 5 verse that you brought up earlier, talking about the male and female nature being a picture of Christ in the church. It's beautiful, and it shows up in the film. But then I go, verse 22, wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, his body, and is himself its Savior.
There's kind of a female empowerment angle here as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because I'm just going, in this situation, sure, there's a divine love that powers our entire new reality, but Christ is the source.
Yeah.
There's one person who's the source of that love for the church.
There's not really a Christ in this film.
That's like saying that there is no Jesus if there's no church. That basically, if there was no church worshiping Jesus, then Jesus would have no power.
Is Trinity the church?
They're not on the same level. They're just not. There is a distinct headship.
How'd you feel when Neo tried to fly?
There's a horrible moment in this film where the music swells, Neo tries to jump and goes, yep, can't do it. And then Trinity can do it. And I just go, what does that mean? But then where Neo can do it? You see, at the very end, they're both flying separately. And I just go, does this film even believe? I just don't know. It's just not good.
It talks about that Trinity believed in Neo even when Neo didn't believe in Neo. So it's like she has the faith and he doesn't. But it makes Neo not a Christ figure. They're just both humans with divine love at this point instead of a chosen one and someone who loves him.
Even then, it's not a biblical portrayal
totally.
of man and woman in marriage and what marriage represents.
There's one verse that I forgot to mention earlier that came to mind with that. Even though there's a non-biblical element to the Trinity flying instead, I love in Ecclesiastes 4:9-12 that two are better than one because they have a good return on their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. And just this idea of
Neo fell.
Two people being able to go back and help your other person come out of the Matrix.
You're right.
Someone to pick you up when you can't fly.
It's so close. Because the Bible talks about it all the time. 2 are better than 1. A cord of 3 is not easily broken.
Yep.
A cord of 3, wow. But then, obviously, there is a divine nature of... I mean, he literally says, you cannot serve God and money or God and mammon. It's just... You can't serve both. There's only one thing you can serve. There can't be 2. So, anyway.
Well,
it depends on what Christ is in the film, really.
Yeah. And I think this discussion just reveals that maybe the film has gotten away from that. There's a lot more alignment in the first few films with what that message was.
I don't think a film can portray Christ as 2 people, a man and a woman.
I just don't think either character in this film are Christ, which is confusing because they totally are in the first 3. Neo is Christ. I just don't think. I think this film is like in a totally different reality than that.
I mean, I agree. I don't even really think it's a sequel. I think it's like a side story.
Because he doesn't
presented as a sequel.
Neo doesn't even want to save people. He just wants to save Trinity. That's bad. That's it. I love her. I can get to her. Because he comes back out. Nothing really changed. All right, but I know Trinity's out there.
It's a rescue mission. Love movie.
I think it's a fair expectation to see in a movie called The Matrix Resurrections, in a story about
spiritual resurrection.
Neo, who was a Christ-like character. I think it's a fair expectation to want to see that, and to not see that was disappointing.
I was definitely disappointed.
Another not biblical thing I think is well, this comes down to some interpretation, but I was just wondering, does the film endorse? It's kind of interesting because the Bible we view as the truth, it's the Word of God, and this new Matrix is built on feelings over facts, but then Neo and Trinity, their love, it cuts through everything, right? And is that an endorsement of feelings over facts? It's definitely not an endorsement of, the objective word of truth that is what sets you free. It's more, no, our love is what will bring us together and set us free. So there's something in there that I just think, is the film endorsing feelings over facts or not?
The only positive way of parsing is what Nathan said earlier of there being a divine spiritual reality to love. And I think you can kind of discern that from the film itself. But yeah, there is. Love is a feeling in a lot of ways. So
in a lot of ways,
big feeling component to it. So
Matrix Revolutions, there's a great scene where this guy says that a program says,
"You do not understand. I just have never heard a program speak of love. It is a human emotion. No, it is a word. What matters is the connection the word implies."
So love is an objective thing described by a word rather than a feeling. Neo's going, it's a feeling. So I sense some sort of 180 from that in this movie.
There's also just the question of it's definitely pointing to love as a spiritual reality, but is it the same as the biblical spiritual reality where above fairy tale love, which is often like, oh, I have a feeling, I saw someone, instant fall in love, which does happen, but love is one of the fruits of the spirit biblically. Mm-hmm. So there's also this element of it's not just a feeling, because when the butterflies go away, there's still this choice of love. There's this sacrifice is love coming from God in a way that is greater than just desire. And I think that that's really the film contrast of lust versus a spiritual love that's set apart. That's kind of in this movie, it's more of a fate thing.
Yeah, they definitely aren't lusting after each other. Definitely.
So yeah,
that's a good point.
Because they're old.
Because they're old. No, yeah, it's definitely something deeper. Something else, I always personally really loved the idea of the Matrix code, and when Neo is awakened, he can see the code. This movie can't see the code, and that's weird. We never get a glimpse of him looking at code.
You get a sense of Trinity, and she sees a flickering of the gold code at the sunset.
Yes.
Sunrise, I guess.
Yes. And to me, that's a great image of the world's full of lies, but there's a way to peel back the curtain and see the code. And that's the Bible. But this movie, it doesn't really engage with that same, there's a new way to see the world, sadly. And that's, I don't really call it not biblical, but it's certainly less biblical directional than the original movie was.
Yeah, absolutely.
To circle back to Trinity's family for just a second, it is a fake digital family, and it is not real. So I have within the confines of the movie, no problem with her breaking free of the program that wants to kill her.
Yeah.
But it still makes me a little uncomfortable in that way that it is in no way trying to be a metaphor for justifying adultery, but it does have that tension of like, she's in love with Neo, she's fated to be with Neo, but she has this family, and the family's fake, and they once again trying to kill her. So it's context is important, but I do think an important distinction has to be made. Like, you can't make this mean this, or it gets a little dicey.
Are they fake? I don't know.
I think they're fake.
I think the dad's fake because he gets the green eyes, but then at the end she tells the analyst.
You brought kids in this.
Yeah, so does that mean... Why would she say that?
Punches his jaw off and says that was for using kids.
Yes, that's right. So what does that mean?
I have
the kids
no
are
clue.
real?
I don't think so.
Why?
Because it makes it harder to swap.
But I think that's what the movie's saying at that point. She wouldn't say that line if they were fake kids.
I think you still could. Like, you used fake children to manipulate my emotions. Like, that's still pretty bad.
Women used to be so easy to control.
just throw some fake kids in there. You got them. And she's like, that was despicable.
I think you can go either way. I think I'd probably read it more your way, though.
I think, that's what makes it despicable. Otherwise, it's no better or worse than creating a fake husband.
It's true.
I
So
don't know.
Messed up.
The other way is just
the bond of a mother and a kid, though. A digital birth. We're getting in a weird place I don't want to be. But
let's get out.
let's get out.
I think the kids are real. Yeah. I think the kids are real, or else that line just doesn't make sense to me. But either way, strange portrayal of the family.
It gets into a little bit of uncomfortable territory where, like,
I was comfortable
within the plot of the movie. It's like, okay, but like I'm not going to read too much into that.
Well, what did you make of the suicide imagery as a Christian man?
Suicide.
It was. I mean, they're technically digital constructs, but it still is a lot of graphic imagery.
Straight up 9/11 imagery.
When it comes to discernment, I think that as awesome as the motorbike chase is, and as much as I understand it's a digital world, still seeing mass suicide basically, it toes a line that I think might not should have been towed, and people should definitely take some stock in before they decide to watch it.
Weird.
I kind of liked it.
It's something.
Well, beyond that though, there's just so many people, like we said earlier, trying to keep, like, Neo's always trying to jump off a building, hit him, and he never hit.
Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Turning them into bombs.
Let us remember.
Free my mind.
Let us remember, in the opening modal sequence with New Morpheus and Bugs.
That's right.
The way out of the modal is to jump
and die,
and to hit the ground. You wake up before you hit the ground.
Do you? I thought it was the. Oh, that is.
Yep.
So the way
it's a weird shot.
The portals are mirrors and doorways instead of phone booths, but the way out is falling.
It's a weird shot. All we see is them falling, and when they hit the camera, and the world shatters, and you see them go into black, basically.
You see green. You see the matrix codes around them.
So they didn't jump into a portal or mirror there.
Because it wouldn't make sense for the analyst to just be freeing masses of people, but
those people are all fake people.
Right.
That's also said earlier.
So real people are not dying. Those are just bots.
Yeah, he just bots.
Yes, all those are bots.
NPCs, basically.
Yeah, that's right. All the suicide deaths are bots. That's clear.
Which doesn't make the visuals any less graphic.
They're shocking.
It does mentally, like, at least they're fake.
There's something about that sequence that I just like. That's just my depraved nature, probably. But it's a cool action sequence, I have to say. But the
chase is awesome.
It was shocking and weird and made me feel strange. But I did like it. I can't lie.
There's a Fast and Furious scene that's like that, where like cars get like controlled by an AI and they start mass jumping off the building.
Wow.
Cool.
Dark
film.
But yeah. So if in the movie, if the way to get out of the modal is this like leap of faith, and again it's kind of a dream motif you're working with, some just basic recurring dreams for everybody, nightmares falling, and you wake up before you hit the ground, or something chasing you, right? Those are dreams everybody's had. And the movie's playing with both of those, and the way out of the modal is for Morpheus and Bugs to fall, and before they hit the glass, it becomes code, and then that's the last we see of them. What does that mean? Why all this falling stuff? I don't quite know what it means, but that could kind of go over either way. It's kind of playing with a leap of faith a little bit, where you just got to have the faith that you're going to wake up, not hit the ground. That's kind of Christian. But then, suicide I don't think is very Christian.
No, definitely not.
That's a weird one. That's one.
And to be clear, what's really strange about it is both times Neo attempts to do it, but the first one that apparently wakes up Bugs, which is such a strange enlightenment moment we never actually
She's
see.
working for the analyst.
No.
Yes.
But he steps off the building and then cuts back to her and she says, "And you never fell." And I go, we should have seen that. I don't know. So that could have been this great moment of that's what the true nature of the world is. It's freedom from death. I don't know. Something.
Yeah, he didn't fall, and then
he didn't fall.
The world was remade and became Minecraft or something.
Then at the end, at the end of that,
and they keep
the
changing
act,
what he looks like.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
At the end of the first act, he tries to jump and then she doesn't let him. So I just go, why can't we just see it? I don't know. It's just weird. I guess they're saving it for the
because
end.
she's working for the analyst.
They're saving it for
I'm
the end or
telling
something.
you, it's all controlled.
I really
time for
love
your theories and your theorems.
I love.
I've said enough.
They finally do the wide shot of the party where he goes to jump, and he's like winning an award, and I thought that was so interesting.
Game
like,
Awards.
Talk about like the desires of the flesh. Like he looks like he has all the earthly success in the world. He has the best-selling video game ever. He has this big award, and that's when he chooses to jump off.
Not fulfilling
It's
at
like
all.
that's not.
Yeah.
You have to have a level of spiritual fulfillment that all those dreams are never going to get you.
Any more not Bible?
Yeah. So we promised to mention earlier two things. One, how Morpheus, again, the spiritual father of the first film, is treated. Again, it's been 60 years.
Yeah.
You see that Morpheus, he actually led Zion into ruin.
Morpheus.
After the siege, he was elected unanimously High Chair of the Council. Oh, how he loved that. But as rumors of this new power spread, he ignored them. He was certain what you had done could not be undone. All of these people never stopped believing in miracles, believing in you.
Apparently, in this film, basically what we're said is what we're told is that there's a new machine rising against the analyst, and Morpheus just won't accept it. He won't see it
Because he believes in the permanence of Neo's sacrifice.
Exactly, and so basically, Morpheus' faith, which I think the word blind comes to mind there, his blind faith in the messianic work, both not only kills him but kills everybody in Zion. And so I just go, ooh, what is that saying about faith? You know, in the sequel, it's faith is this saving thing that allows him to see the true way. It's rewarded, sees him the true way to save his people. But in this film, it led everybody to their death.
In Revolutions, Morpheus' faith, even though it's deeply challenged and reloaded when Neo learns what he believes in the moment to be the truth from the architect, that the prophecy, the one, it was all just another construct. But then you see at the end of Revolutions, no, it was. I mean, we don't totally understand how it happened, but the prophecy did come true. Morpheus' faith was rewarded. And he looks up to the sky and is just crying at the end of that movie. It's awesome. Great film about faith being rewarded. And this movie, it's not really, is this really going against a specific biblical passage or anything? But it seems to be critiquing the idea of faith, I would say.
Yeah. Yup.
You think, Nathan?
Yeah, I mean,
because faith can be a feeling. I mean, is that just? I mean, I'm trying to connect it to the larger thing the film is saying about feelings and wondering. It's just not.
Morpheus was in a Matrix.
Yeah, I don't even know. Matrix of War. Anyway, sorry. There was more of a coherent thought there, but what you got?
I thought it was cool in the moment that Morpheus was still characterized by his faith, but the fact that he led everyone to death and ruin is definitely a bit of a strange take. And just spiritually, like, I don't think statues are inherently bad. They can honor people from hundreds of years ago to remember them, but like, it was kind of a memorialized spiritual depiction of Morpheus statue that felt a little strange as well.
Yeah. Probably should be torn down and vandalized and destroyed.
Put statue of Neo.
Yeah, exactly. What the heck?
I don't know.
A lot of people, it was interesting to me, like, when he first awakens, a lot of the people in the crew are like, wow, like, this Neo guy is actually real. Like, they still don't believe in him post all that.
Legend, and there's a guy who literally says, I'm a Neologist. I study the theories and truths about Neo. And of course, I interact with some Catholics, and they have Mariology, the study of Mary. And it's just
Christology.
Obviously Christology, but I've interacted with that one more recently. So it's weird. They're almost dealing with Neo. And I'm sorry to say this, but it's very Star Wars Force Awakens, where the truth and characters, these moral victories that happened in the previous films, they're legends. Do they even happen? Are they even real? Do people even know about them in a true way? So that's just interesting. People in the real world just don't. I don't know. Only Niobe really knows him from his old life. So it's just she doesn't even believe in him.
It just contradicts Revolution so much with Morpheus and Niobe. I couldn't look past that. That hurt my heart to see Morpheus reduced to a blind idiot who followed a false messiah. Where the ending of Revolution doesn't even work if that's what's happening. Anyway, I didn't get it.
It also ties just to kind of not a problem with the movie necessarily, but a spiritual reconciliation problem with the whole Matrix franchise, where like most of our reading of it is based on the idea that Neo is reflecting Christ in these different ways. He's mirroring the story of Christ, but he's also, as we talked about in the last episode, a human trying to understand these things in his place.
It's not the Christ story.
And so like I think Resurrections is kind of doubling down on that in the way that like he was a hero who came for a time and did a thing, who was prophesied, but like the neologist that's studying him is obsessed with a person who's just a human, who's just a guy. And you have to look at him as a human or it gets real weird.
How do the other films work anymore in that case?
You have to separate this one pretty hard.
You do.
Not a sequel.
So we can really enjoy it.
But it's so meta that it almost begs you not to.
It almost
connect
works.
them.
Yeah, it almost works.
So close to working.
There's just so much collateral damage with beloved characters that it's hard. But no, I definitely think you're right. It's not a straight sequel. Definitely.
Why don't you talk about the filmmaker?
Yeah, we got to talk about this. Yeah, we saved the best for last, everybody. Okay, so Lana Wachowski, I think, is a brilliant filmmaker, very creative. I mean, I love all of the Wachowski's movies, really. Awesome. They're so interesting. Even their bad movies are just interesting and cool, and unlike anything else produced by Hollywood. I love that. Lana Wachowski identifies as a trans woman, and this movie seems to be an expression of that identity in some ways. But also the reading of the film, this movie is just, you just see what you see out of it. I don't know. But the big question for, a Christian viewer is, I think obviously a Christian would have to reject the idea of a trans woman being a reality. I think a Christian would have to say God made you a certain way for a reason. And a man should be united with a woman. A man should not become a woman. That's very weird. And I guess mileage will vary on how important that is to this story and how much of Lana is in this story and how much of the trans narrative is in this story. I don't know, but I think a Christian definitely has to be thinking about that when they're watching this movie, is how much of that is coming from this unfortunate, whatever, I'm trying to use good language, but it is unfortunate when a person feels that they're a different gender or sex than they are. It's sad, and it goes against what God designed that person to be. So anyway, what does it mean that person made this movie?
A movie that so strongly is centered around the love of a man and a woman, breaking down all the barriers of falsehood.
And also seems to critique a feelings over facts worldview, which to my admittedly outsider's perspective, but also a biblical perspective, hey, a man's a man. Doesn't really matter what you feel. It's
an interesting kind of contradiction there.
What, definitely.
He's gotta be aware.
Movie's
of that.
full of interesting contradictions, I would say.
Because the film will go as far as to say, yeah, these characters have true names. But then I think about the filmmaker's own journey, and I go, well, you rejected your true name. So I just...
Yeah.
Oh, in their view, obviously, they would say that they found no true name.
Lana's the true name.
Lana's the true name. And so it's just, again...
But we know that's not true.
The bus we can all ride together is there is truth, and truth will set you free. Now, unfortunately, perhaps the source of
that truth
is very
is
different, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where we have to diverge with the filmmaker.
What is the movie saying?
I think we talked about it a lot with Matrix 1, and Matrix 4 weirdly critiques it of like, well, obviously the movie's about, and like, you can definitely read the story of awakening and rebirth as awakening true name into what you were always meant to be, and that can, in your mind, be awakening to your true gender identity, or you can look at that and say that that's entering another matrix and that you need to define who God truly made you to be.
One of those statements is true, though.
There is no explicit trans character in this film, which is just insane to me. I mean, it seemed like that was something they always wanted to do in the original Matrix movie. They didn't do it with Switch. I'm shocked that they didn't come into this film.
I wonder if Lana and Lily both are playing a decades-long prank.
Stop.
To go, yeah, we were never trans. Gotcha. We created a matrix out of media and news.
It's just strange. I guess the only detail that would suggest maybe there's more of a trans reading is the man and woman kind of being on equal footing and kind of they can kind of flip between which one's actually the
Trinity
Messiah,
ends up being the most powerful.
But that's more of a feminist strain. But I just kind of go, it's kept putting both genders on the same playing field. I don't know. The film itself doesn't really lend itself to that much stuff, which is
not a complementarian view.
It's like regardless of what you believe outside or how much you can read it in, I don't think in a vacuum you would ever assume that of it.
Assume what?
Like watch the film and immediately, oh, obviously
trans.
that's what it means.
Yeah,
I agree.
Which is
I
good.
definitely agree.
That's good.
Yep. I don't know what's going on with this filmmaker in this movie.
It's crazy.
I think
Because supposedly it's a film about grief, but it channels that grief into torturing characters more than it does
setting them free from it.
And then at the end, there's, depending on how you read the ending, there is like awesome love and catharsis. But that's more of a love story than a grief loss story. I mean, it's a tribute to their parents' love.
agree.
Wish fulfillment. I wish she can come back. Oh, she's back. Yay. Wish Neva's back. Oh, he's back. Yeah, can't wait. More Matrix movies.
I don't know.
I think let us wrap it up. Shall we move into application?
Application.
Yeah. Even though this movie is bizarre and hard to parse, and perhaps intentionally so, intentionally full of contradictions and different messages, making it hard to parse. Just watching it, this is sort of an indirect application, but watching this maelstrom of a movie with contradictory scenes and characters that don't make sense and characters changing from the original trilogy, and also Neo being in this new matrix of feelings and everything, it just makes me go, the Bible's awesome. The Word of God is just awesome. Yeah. And I'm reminded of Ephesians 6, the armor of God and the way it refers to the Word in that. And it's let me find it real quick.
It's an awesome passage.
The sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. That is awesome. The thing that cuts through the maelstrom and the fog is this sword of light that pierces everything. And this movie, I don't think this movie had that. I mean, the very fact that I think there's all this debate and conversation about it, and even us here, we agreed so much, but then also we couldn't really pin down what the movie's saying. It just makes me go, I'm glad the Bible is just the way it is. I'm glad the Bible just tells the truth. It makes me value that.
Real clear.
Yeah.
And one thing connected to that, and this is something that maybe you articulated in the past to me, is just, again, I'm looking at the therapy stuff, not really sure what to make of it, not really sure what to make of all of us feeling stuff, but people's words, their self-images of themselves, those can be, you can have all these matrices inside yourselves with your, I don't know, just the dreams you want, the things you think you're owed, your self-narrativation of everything you do. You know, I think we've all had to carry with ourselves where, just to be honest, I was reading my journal from college, and I was reading it, and I was going, there's a lot of self-narrativization happening here, which I'm sure at the time was just me processing it, but I just go, even then I was having a hard time just interacting with the truth. And so the film's always cursory warning against the dangers of manipulation. Again, it uses therapy as the image. I'm not saying therapy is bad, but words can be a matrix. Even just talking to someone and the words they're using can construct this false world in front of you. Yeah. Anyway, just dangers of things that may sound true and feel true because the words that are used but aren't true. Anyway, I don't know. It's a weird application, but anyway.
Well, I think building off of that, I think we live in a world that encourages what your journals seem to be of like, I'm trying to understand your perspective, trying to deal with the feelings you have is a very important thing. You shouldn't just let your feelings run rampant and dormant and just shove them all down. Like, you need to deal with them. Mm-hmm. But we live in a world that's all about my truth. And this whole Matrix movie is about the idea that there is a matrix based on your feelings that says your truth is the world.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is what I feel, therefore that is the reality of the world. And we believe with the Bible that there is your perspective, there is your truth, but there's a truth that trumps that, and you can be wrong, and the Bible can't.
Right. Mm-hmm. And we can all read the Bible and have different interpretations, but we all agree the Bible does say what it says. I mean, we'll read it differently, but luckily it is set in stone. The words are just there. And
let's read a Bible verse about that. You keep talking.
Okay, sure. One more application for me is.
I was gonna bring up hyperlink text. If you didn't, you should.
Yeah, I got. Yeah, thank you. The Matrix Resurrections is, like we said. I mean, it's just this fascinating movie that's quoting other films and is self-aware, and it's cool, and it demands that you compare it in a deep way to the previous Matrix films, particularly the first one, but all of them. It references all of them, and that's fun to do. And that kind of storytelling comes from the Bible. The Bible has all these references and hyperlinks to itself. I just heard this one today talking to somebody else. I thought it was awesome. Genesis opens with God's Spirit hovering over the waters. And then the New Testament, when Jesus is baptized, the Holy Spirit's hovering over the waters where Jesus is being baptized. I mean, that's a recurring thing. It's a self-referential thing. It's the New Testament's a modal of the Old Testament. I don't know, but
well, Paul all the time talks about the new Adam. It's just it's always building upon old truths and
Melchizedek,
Christ to it.
The Passover lamb and the prophecies, and especially since the Gospels are retellings of the same story.
Yes,
which Matrix 4 is a retelling of one.
Wow, maybe that's the lens to view it through. It's not as a sequel, but
a different perspective.
Oh, I have to think about that. Because the Gospels, I mean, sometimes they don't fit together, and we have to look at that and wrestle with it and go, what? Why?
They're focusing on different themes and ideas, different parts of God's character.
That's the answer we come up with, and man, maybe that's a way to view Resurrections. That's interesting. Another application we stumbled upon. But the big one for me is just, I think when you watch Matrix Resurrections, you'll be remembering the first film, and you'll be analyzing it and comparing the text and
textual analysis.
The textual analysis. The Bible was made for that. It's awesome. It's really fun.
And instead of being a neologist, you can find eternal. Well, yeah, like as fun as it is to look into these movies, and as rich and fun as they are, at the end of the day, it's a temporary thing. But the more you study the crazy, intricate stories of the Bible, the more rewarding that is from an eternal perspective. And you get to love stories and heroes and villains, and
you'll get more treasures in heaven.
More treasures in heaven.
I'm kidding. I mean, I was half kidding.
I think my final application, that was a really interesting long conversation. It's just a weird, cool, entertaining, very strange movie. But I think a super practical application is that in this movie, love is the thing that breaks the bonds of people's kind of depressed, addicted Matrix world.
Right. And not a lustful love.
Love. And I think, and I'm not in any way saying you should date someone to save someone, but love is definitely a saving power. And I think in Matthew 5:14-16, it says beautifully that you are the light of the world, and a town or a city built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So I think as Christians, you can kind of look at this and go, okay, what are the good deeds that are going to get people to see the light of God that's in me and help awaken them to the reality of God and a God that loves them? And that's by loving people. The way that we show the spiritual reality of the world to others
creates the light orb.
Creates the light orb. The light, the city on the hill, Trinity and Neo's light orb,
the fragrant offering of light,
is by loving others and serving others and showing God's love to them. So that's
now,
what we can all
do. I don't think there was a lot of service in this film.
No.
Just gotta point that out.
Love,
Neo
not
service.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But you should do both.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, that's all I got.
That's great.
What you got, Reagan?
Well, I wanted to conclude with reading a passage about love.
Okay.
So we have anything else to say?
Go for it.
It's a long passage. A passage you know.
We're ready for holy matrimony.
Is this 1 Corinthians 13?
Perhaps it is.
Let's go.
Passage about love.
Passage about love, ladies and gentlemen. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but not love, I am a noisy gong or clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and have all the faith, so as to remove mountains, but not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. Ooh, resurrections. As for the prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in the mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part. Then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. So now faith, hope, and love abide. These three. But the greatest of these is love.
That's awesome. It's one of my favorites.
And in Matrix Resurrections, I do think we see love persevering. It is the thing that breaks out of the Matrix is Neo's unrelenting, persevering love.
Definitely.
So go love each other, guys. Peace.
Lots of love. LOL. See you guys next time.
Thanks for listening. Check out Matrix Resurrections, but have your Bible handy, please. We will give this a directed by God rating.
Directed by God rating. Stars?
No. Was it directed by God or not? Remains to be seen.
I think maybe God was taking a nap, and he had a couple doodles as he was fading off, and this could have been what that film was. And then his evil son, Satan, filled it in. I don't know.
Nathan, what do you think?
I think this is one of those movies that, despite the very funny critiques of people who are obsessed with the original Matrix movies and analyzing them...
You mean me?
...begs to be analyzed and deconstructed in the same way. It's almost infuriatingly contradictory just to have those kind of conversations.
Yeah, maybe.
So anyway, I don't know exactly what it's
God?
saying, but I definitely think there's some positive things that are spiritual to take from it, and there's a lot to be cautious about too.
But
solid in the middle.
I'm with you. I'm more with you. I think in time we will see if God's hand moved in this film or not. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Peace.
Goodbye.